Welcome back, ladies. It's Tilly Storm. Last week in honor of Earth Day, we talked about greening your bedroom, how to detox your sex life for better health and pleasure. I gave you all sorts of tips on how to detox your home, what things you need to get rid of in your home, products you need to stop buying, and I also gave you a great tip on what sort of detoxes you can use for your body to get all of the crap out of your body that's causing hormonal issues that might be affecting your sexual health. All right, loves, this week we are talking about utilizing the power of play to rekindle the sexual flame between you and your husband. The first thing I'm going to tell you is why play is vital to maintaining a fun and satisfying sex life. The second thing is I'm going to give you actual examples of things that you can explore together sexually so you begin to open your mind about what all is even out there and what might even be possible. And the third part of this episode is that I'm going to show you how to talk to your partner in a way that feels safe about your desires and to talk about your fantasies and the things that you want to do with your partner, but maybe you haven't done or you're too afraid to admit that you want it and all of that stuff. So if that sounds exciting to you, be sure to subscribe and follow the show so you never miss an episode and give us a 5-star rating and review while you're at it. Thank you so much. This is the Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire Podcast, the only sex podcast for 7- and 8-figure conscious leaders who want to embody their pleasure and have the best sex of their lives. I'm Tilly Storm, top 20 sex coach in the world, and your host today. From monotony to fun-tasy, or fantasy, as you may say. Fun-tasy, fantasy, I don't know. Cute little play on words there for you. Okay, ladies, how do you get out of the boring sexual routine? How do you get out of the monotony of the same thing you have been doing for years and years and years? And it might make you not even want sex anymore because your husband does it the same way every time. He does the same things to turn you on every single time. And you're just like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to remain in a relationship with this person for the rest of my life if we don't figure out how to spice things up or to rekindle our sexual flame, as I like to say it, because I don't like that term spicing things up because it seems so basic to me. But in honor of being able to rekindle passion and intimacy and a sense of fun and play in your relationship again, let's get there. So how do you get that fun and adventurous spark back when, quite frankly, you have not had it so long? Maybe you just lack the motivation to initiate sex or have it at all because you know how it's going to go. It's gotten predictable. Yeah, that's a lot of you. After 10 years, I work with a lot of people in the 15 to 25-ish year mark of a relationship, and they're just like, oh my God, like I don't even know what to do anymore because every time we talk about this, he wants these things, I want these things, and then he shuts me down and he makes me feel crazy, or vice versa. Okay, so we're going to talk about the power of play, getting back to the basics, and how to explore an edge in a way that it doesn't invoke anxiety in your system. Because a couple that explores edges together grows sexually together. There's like the one-liner. If you could get anything from this episode, let it be this. A couple that explores edges together grows sexually together. Growing sexually together means you won't get bored. You gotta expand the fence of what feels safe to play and explore together. How do you grow sexually together? You play and explore. You try new things. You go to the edge of what feels comfortable. You get fun, comfortable. Playing and exploring your desires and fantasies is the antidote to rekindling passion and intimacy if things have gotten a bit monotonous, ladies. Many people have sexual edges that they're afraid to experience or go beyond. Okay, what are some examples? Maybe you're so disconnected from your sexuality and so unmotivated to even put yourself out there again. You haven't thought about this stuff in so long, so I'm going to give you some ideas right now, okay? Maybe at one point in your life you did feel super sexy and confident and you had lots of sexual desire and you thought about it all the time and you had all of these fantasies that you wanted to live out, but maybe motherhood, your high-powered career, your $1 million business kind of took all of that out of you, okay? So maybe some edges that you used to want to explore that you totally forgot about because you haven't thought about this stuff in so long are being dominant or submissive, exploring some kinky things together, exploring BDSM, maybe being totally freaking wild and primal, feeling like a wild woman who can just ravish her partner again, okay? Maybe experiencing a spiritual, like tantric sexual connection with your husband, or maybe having threesomes or moresomes, or swinging, or doing something totally out of the box. Maybe that's something that you've done in the past and you're like, oh, I'm so disconnected from that person who did those things, or like that's so far from who I am now or what I want for my life now, and that's fine too. But all sorts of desires and fantasies that you may have had in the past that you kind of forgot about or got buried under motherhood and business or career. And a lot of them, when you're in this different stage of life of having raised a family, having built a super successful career, what tends to happen is like you eventually those things become less and less important. Because the older you get, the more that you realize, oh, well, I'm not going to my grave with all this money I made, or I'm not gonna have excuses about kids being in the house all of the time when they eventually leave. So, getting back to what pleases me, what turns me on, where's my pleasure in all of this? When you connect back to that person, it can invoke some sort of fear or shame or guilt for having disconnected from that part of yourself in the first place. What happens in long-term relationships is that over time, the zone of safety, what feels comfortable and safe to do with our partner, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Because over time, the longer you've been in a relationship, the more you understand your partner's edge. And because we don't like to get uncomfortable and we don't like to be at our edge, because most of us, as much as we say we want to grow, we don't actually want to. Our nervous system and our body's like, no, that's not safe, right? So if you want to move beyond the monotony, you got to get uncomfortable and you've got to expand things, make yourself more vulnerable, put yourself on the line again. And yeah, it can feel scary to be in that place. But what happens is that if you don't, you will end up in a monotonous, boring sexual routine the rest of your freaking life. And I know that because you're listening to this podcast, you don't want that. That's why you're here. That's why you're listening to me, right? That's why people pay me a lot of money to teach them how to get out of this comfort zone and this ho-hum boring routine and help them get back the fun and the play and the passion and the sexiness that they once had when they first met. So to get back to play, you gotta quit taking sex so seriously. Get back to the thrill of going to an edge and exploring what you've been afraid of all of this time, but secretly titillated by. Discover where you're most excited to go. Maybe you're afraid, but you're curious. And where you are curious, but for whatever reason, you don't let yourself go there. Edges will mean different things to different people. No two people will have the same edge. Well, maybe, but it's uncommon. An edge for you might be getting tied up. An edge for someone else might be exploring tantric sex. An edge for another person might be exploring delaying orgasm over and over again. An edge for another might be having sex with other people. An edge for someone else might be playing with control and submission. An edge for another might be invoking pain. There are so many ways, so many sexual things to explore and to go on an adventure around, but because of our unconscious shame and guilt and fear, we tend to not let ourselves go there because it means that we have to open up and actually talk about it. And it's incredible how many couples don't talk about sex at all. So if this invokes a sense of anxiety for you, just hearing me share some of these things, just know that an edge can be anything that excites you. It doesn't have to be dangerous or scary, just something that feels interesting to explore. For you, exploring sex with others is an absolute no, and I don't ever recommend that if your sex life already sucks. That is not a way to revive your sex life if things already suck. It's only something that I would recommend if someone wants to do it when they are already on great terms sexually and they're both happy and satisfied, because it's a means to continue growing, exploring, expanding. But don't do that if you're not happy already with what you got. The grass ain't greener on the other side, promise. If you're not sure what sort of edge you'd like to explore, it'll help you get clear to write it out, what you're interested in. So things that you would like to play with, what you may be interested in. You're not sure, but you've heard of this thing and I'd be open to trying it. And what you're definitely not interested in. What's an absolute hell no for me, not ever going to do that. Once you get clear about what you might want to try, what you do want to try, and what you're absolutely not going to try in terms of exploring and playing on an edge together, then it's time to talk about it with each other. If that's something you've struggled with in the past, which a lot of my couples that work with me, that's definitely been a thing in the past. And usually at some point within a long-term relationship, someone gets hurt or a desire of fantasy gets brought up and the other person shames or guilts or is too afraid. And then the partner who shared the thing realizes that, oh, when I brought that up, my partner shut down. All these sorts of things. Many people struggle with communicating about sex, right? If that's you, then I want to encourage you to download my Tantric Sex Starter Kit at the link in the show notes. That's tillystorm.com/tantric-sex-kit. And you will have a communication practice that'll help you discuss these things in a way that feels safe, as well as several connection practices and a PDF guide to help you to discover what you'd want to even try sexually. If you're not sure and you want to write it down, but you want to go through a list of different things because maybe you're not that creative or you're not in that creative space and sex just hasn't been on your mind a lot lately, then go download the Tantric Sex Starter Kit. Start with a PDF guide so you can even see what all there is to explore. All right, one last thing I want to share about the power of play and reigniting the spark is that you gotta stop with the goal-oriented, performance-based sexual approach that is so classic porn-style stuff that you see in every Hollywood movie and show out there. There is so much more to sex than the goal of orgasm. Sex is the ultimate adult playground. Where kids use a playground to explore and play with each other and build connections with each other, guess what? Adults do the same thing, but in sex in the bedroom. I want you to imagine yourself at a park. You're seeing a bunch of children playing with each other, okay? And could you imagine that you heard one of the kids say to another kid, hey, you know what? In order for this to be a successful playground experience, you need to swing on the swing 5 times, and then you need to go play on the seesaw once with me, and then do the merry-go-round 10 times with me. And if we don't do that in exactly that way, then the play session wasn't successful, and we must never try it again. Do you see how insane that sounds? Do you see how insane that sounds? Yes. That is exactly how most couples approach their sexual experiences with each other. It has to look like this. She has to have 10 orgasms. We have to do this thing in exactly this way. And if it doesn't work out that way, then it was a failure. It didn't work out. Maybe we're not meant for each other. Do you see all of the stories that we begin to create about our relationships and ourselves just from what we think it has to look like? It's absurd. So instead of thinking that it has to look this way, it has to be goal-oriented, it has to happen exactly that way, if we were to just get rid of that and go with a beginner's mindset and just focus on what feels good and fun in the moment, and we got back to the fun and the pleasure and the play and it all, then sex wouldn't be about a performance or a goal. It should be about pleasure and play. Yet so many of us forget about that. So take the pressure off of yourself and off of your partner and focus on exploring each other's bodies, finding out what feels good, remembering that it's a journey. It's not a freaking destination with a particular goal that you got to get to. All right, love. So if that is something that you're serious and committed to working on in your life right now, getting back to the fun and the play and it all, then that is what I help people with in my signature program, Sex Goddess 5 Months of Total Freedom in the Bedroom. There are 4 different components to this program. It includes bi-monthly coaching with me every other week. So every other week we do inner work. We're going deep into your inner world to release any trauma, conditioning, any of the negative stories that you're continuing to tell yourself. And we're actually taking all of the great things that you know to be true about sex and pleasure and orgasms and relationships and intimacy, and we're clearing the internal blocks that keep you from fully believing them as real in your body. One thing to think and know that the new story is the new story, but it's another thing to embody the new story, which is where most people are not living from the space of embodiment of the pleasure and intimacy and love and connection that they crave. Okay, second component of Sex Goddess is you have lifetime access to our member library. The member library is all your video teachings, your trainings. You learn everything you could ever possibly want to know about the jade egg. You'll have all sorts of jade egg practices to get your mojo back, to get you connected to your body in a somatic, deep way, to reconnect your heart, your head, and your pussy, and get you fully aligned to the most sensual, sexual expression that feels in alignment and natural and true to you. And the third component of that program is your husband or your partner will get access to a men's training that I have, How to Sexually Please a Woman. I recorded this training a while back after repeating the exact same things to the partners of my female clients so many times I got tired of saying it all over and over again. So I just recorded it and I'm like, okay, here's your own member library, man. Go through the member library and learn the things that you need to learn to support your woman in being the most alive, vibrant, radiant, juicy, sensual, sexual woman that she can be. And you also get access to my Epic Sex member library. So the Epic Sex blueprint is 10 sex date nights that I give you guys over the course of the 5 months that you're working with me in Sex Goddess. And you will take yourself through one date night every other week. And in the date nights, this is where you are expanding that fence of what feels safe. You're exploring, you're adventuring, you're playing. I'm literally giving you all of the tools and practices to get to that layer of play and adventure and exploration again, so nothing ever gets boring. So not only are you doing your self practices in the Sex Goddess member library, not only is your partner learning how to please you and meet you where you're at, but you're also doing this work as a couple together. In our one-on-one sessions every other week, I only work with the woman for at least the first half of the program. And then the second half, if the man wants to join sessions, I invite him to come on because what you've been doing with me, the one-on-one work that you have been doing with me, has been starting to show up in your relationship, usually about halfway through our time working together. This is a solo journey. You do not need your husband to have a great sex life. I know this is crazy. This doesn't make any sense to you. You think he needs to change. You think he needs to do all of these things to fix himself. And the truth is, that's bullshit. Take responsibility for your life. I don't deal with that victim mentality bullshit. I will not tolerate it. I can't, like, anytime I get a woman on a call that is in victim mode like that and she wants to blame it all on her husband, you're not ready to work with me. If you don't know how to get out of victim mode and take control of your life for where you're at with your sex life and relationship, if you're not willing to take responsibility, you need to go to traditional therapy until you're ready to take that stance of, I'm in charge of my life. I create my reality. I create the relationship of my dreams, and I'm not going to blame it on my partner. Okay? But if you are there and you're like, yes, Tilly, I'm ready to take control of my life. I'm ready to change what I need to change internally and get more in alignment with my pleasure, my sensuality, my sexuality. And I'm willing to do the work necessary to do that, to have a satisfying sex life and relationship. So if that's where you're at, then I want to invite you to go apply for the program. And you can just do that by booking a call at the link in the show notes. And we will get on a call. We'll talk about what you're struggling with in your sex life relationship, what you're wanting to create, what are your blocks and obstacles in the way, and exactly how you're going to overcome them. And then I'll answer all of your questions about the program, and we'll see if it's a good fit for each other. Okay? That's how my vetting process works. So if it interests you, go to the link in the show notes and book a call today. All right, loves, this week we talked all about play and the power of play and getting that back in your relationship. But next week, this is going to be a very juicy tell-all one from everything that's been going on in my life the past 7-8 months-ish. I've gone through a deep winter period of literally destroying everything that was working in my business, even though it was working. I will tell you all about the feminine energy dynamics that I got and learned to embrace through this process of destruction in my life. I literally burned my business to the ground. I stopped doing my group program that I did for 2 years and 2.75 years that was creating epic change and transformation in people's lives. And I will tell you why I got rid of it, even though it was working. And it's also going to be a celebration of Mother's Day and mothers. And I'm going to tell you why I'm working with millionaires now and why that may piss some of my audience off. And you're like, well, I don't know if I belong here anymore because Tilly only works with millionaires. I'm going to tell you why. Why I have chosen to go this route. And I will share all about the feminine energy dynamics that I've gotten to embrace to bring that into my reality. All right, thanks so much for joining, and we will see you next week. Bye.